Derrick Henry, John Harbaugh, and the Baltimore Ravens take on Aaron Rodgers, Mike Tomlin in a winner-take-all Week 18 Sunday night matchup between two of the more storied NFL franchises. The status of Lamar Jackson is one of the key elements to this game. Is he fully healthy? Probably not. Does he play? I don't think that it honestly makes a massive difference with the level of play we have seen out of backup quarterback Tyler Huntley. A win against the Green Bay Packers on the road at Lambeau in a game that they needed to stay in the race for the NFC North in a game that they needed. And Malik Willis playing very good football against the Chicago Bears, another good team in the NFC. Tyler Huntley beat both of those guys as the starter. They are facing a Pittsburgh Steelers team that will be without DK Metcalf because of the suspension. It was obvious the Steelers missed him last week against the Cleveland Browns. Could not really move the football downfield. Thanks to their defense, they stayed in the game and they had a shot throughout the second half, opportunities to go down the field, take the lead, or to tie it at the end, and could not do it. First and goal at the 10-yard line and not able to punch it in. You miss that big physical outside perimeter weapon to utilize and get the ball. He's been the clear and obvious far and wide the number one target in this Pittsburgh offense, and really number two behind him has been the tight end Freiermuth and Kenneth Gainwell out of the backfield. He's been incredible receiving the football. In the original matchup, to go back a couple of weeks where it really looked like the Steelers were going to come away and win this division after Baltimore stumbled badly Thanksgiving night against the Bengals with a loss. The game was decided on third down and in the red zone. It's funny because coaches talk about that in every interview about what do they want to do well on. Well, the Ravens settled for 3 field goals in that game, and they were 7 of 18. They were really bad on third down. That's what decided. If they turn those possessions into touchdowns, if they're better on third down, they're going to wind up winning that game. And now they're in a position because of that loss that it's winner take all. And their quarterback, Lamar Jackson, if he does play, it helps because he's got a little bit more of the ability inside the pocket as a passer. Tyler Huntley, where he's really good, is being decisive. All right, I'm just going to take off, scramble, and run, go get as many yards as I can. His performance against the Packers is as good as you can really ask for from a backup. 80% completion percentage against what's still a really good Packer defense, even without Devontae Wyatt and Micah Parsons using his legs. 60 yards on the ground on 8 carries, really effective. But at the end of the day, Derrick Henry had 36 carries, which I believe was a career high for him, 216 yards, 4 touchdowns, and if you remember, he got a bulk amount of carries in the original matchup, 25 carries, 94 yards. They ran the ball 40 times for 217. Mitchell had a really explosive run, and that's sort of what honestly hurt the Ravens in some of their in their matchup a couple of weeks ago, where they had a really big opportunity to beat the Patriots in that loss. They didn't give the ball to Derrick Henry in the fourth quarter. They didn't give it to their workhorse. They won't make that mistake. Down to the wire in this game, the ball will be in the hands of Derrick Henry, and it will be in the hands of Aaron Rodgers. And the question looms, which guy will make the plays when it comes down to it? Because this is going to be a one-score game down to the wire. There isn't a world where the Baltimore Ravens blow the Steelers off the track in their building and win this game by 14 points. It's not happening. This division has always been really decided by these two teams. You go back the last 25 years, and which team from this division has been better? And you're looking at some really good Ravens teams. Go back to the Super Bowl win and the Pittsburgh Steelers and their win against Seattle, and then they wind up beating the Arizona Cardinals, the James Harrison play. This team has been built on defense, but it's this rivalry. What I'm fully getting at here is this is one of the best rivalries in all of sports. I mean, Bears-Packers maybe takes the cake, but if you're an AFC football fan or you're in this rivalry as a Raven or a Steelers fan, you know that this is the best rivalry, no doubt, in the AFC. Two teams that hate each other. When they get together, the intensity ramps up. Guys like T. Sizzle, Ed Reed, Troy Polamalu. This division has been filled with defensive players. Offensive now has sort of been a bit of the theme, getting playmakers like Zay Flowers and DK Metcalf and the Le'Veon Bells of this matchup, and the Ray Rices of the world when he was roaming and playing really good football. The great players that have come from this, like Jack Lambert, Mean Joe Green, to mention a couple, so many Hall of Famers on both sides of this game. So it means more than just the divisional title. All of the greats looking down upon us in this stadium watching this game, they're going to be intrigued by this one and staying faithful to their squad, because it's more than just the rivalry. It's the playoffs on the line and having control of that division. Both of these northern divisions, it just means a little bit more to people up north, and you really have to live in those rivalries to understand it. For Pittsburgh to have success, it looks like running the ball a lot better. 17 carries for 34 yards and the longest rush against Baltimore a couple of weeks ago for 6 yards. That's not at all going to cut it. They're going to need to run the football close to 30 times, maintain a little bit better time of possession. They got what's the correct way to say it? Out-timed, out-possessed, we'll say, by about 8 minutes in that first game. And overall on the season, these two offenses, I think, have been better than they've been given credit for. The Ravens are 11th in the league, 25 points a game. The Steelers more in the middle of the pack, 23 points a game. That's 15th in the NFL. It is the time of possession, though, where they both have struggled. Baltimore 24th in the league, 29-20 overall. And the Pittsburgh Steelers, far and wide, one of the worst teams in the league, fully possessing the football. They are third last, 28 minutes and 3 seconds. So it's really interesting. How does this play out? It's going to be decided pretty quickly what the tone is, which team is going to try and jockey a little bit out ahead. Settling for field goals can't cut it in these games. It's always decided in the red zone and third down, as we talked about. And which team gets more pressure on the quarterback? Pittsburgh's been a very good team rushing the passer. And what's the status of TJ Watt? He's been the force on this Pittsburgh defense that is so key, because he opens up guys like Herbig, Cam Hayward in the middle, and him seeing only one man in front of him to block him and not having to deal with double teams. When you take away TJ Watt and you can put resources to other guys, I must add, though, Jack Sawyer, you kidding me, with this rookie out of Ohio State, the national champion, comes up with the interception in Cleveland at the dog pound, and he does a little bit of an OH in front of the Cleveland faithful. I know that those in the state of Ohio love Jack Sawyer. He's going to be cemented in history in the great state of Ohio with that return for a touchdown on the fumble he forced on Quinn Ewers in the semifinal to stamp the Buckeyes ticket to the national championship game. An interception against Michigan in that game last year for his chance at glory, and then he got it in the semifinal, forcing the college football playoff a season ago. Him to have that play must have felt really good for him, for Mike Tomlin. But what happens? I believe they wind up turning it over on downs. A 4th and 1, they take a shot, and it doesn't work out. Those types of plays, they got to pay off. They galvanize a team with momentum. You have to pay them off and get points on the board off of the takeaway. Otherwise, you're not building on momentum. And that can turn a really great play into something that's a little bit deflating. Like if we get a great turnover like that and a nice run back and we still can't score, what does that say about this team? And in Cleveland, they pressured Rodgers decently well enough, even doing a good job in holding up against Myles Garrett. They had 7 tackles for loss, 2 sacks on the day. a little bit of pressure that they were sending from the back end in the secondary. The Steelers have been great again, getting after the quarterback the whole season with those 45 sacks, and Baltimore has not been good at it. Losing Madubuike earlier in the year, it was like a gut punch in the season, and they had not been able to recover. Fifth least amount of sacks in football, or it's either fifth or fourth, with only 28 sacks overall on the year. Imagine those 17 sacks Pittsburgh has, what Baltimore could have done in their games if they were able to muster just one more sack a game, or you come up with 2 sacks in a big moment. That's been a huge part of why the Steelers, in turnover differential with the pressure that they put on quarterbacks, why they're plus 11. They got a quarterback in Aaron Rodgers that hasn't turned the ball over his entire career. Go back to Cal, go back to his days playing in community college, and in the NFL, plus 11 turnover differential. That's fourth best in the league. And Baltimore not getting as many takeaways. They've got 11 picks to the Steelers' 14 overall on the season. So Pittsburgh, I know that the talk has been this defense has underperformed, but look, they can get themselves a win here. They'll be hosting a game to start the postseason. Most likely it'll be against the Houston Texans. And for Baltimore, here's your chance. Roquan Smith, Kyle Hamilton, Marlon Humphrey, all these players, the rookie and Malaki Starks, Mike Green. There's so many talented guys on this defense, and it has not been put together. It's been very frustrating to watch them throughout the season with all of that speed and athleticism, that talent that they have, and to underperform in this manner. It's truly been fascinating to see them miss tackles and be out in open space and not make plays and dropped opportunities to have takeaways. It's a game against Rodgers that's gonna come down to whether or not they put pressure. So that's the question. Do you send more than 4 guys? Do you think that you can get to Rodgers with just 4 and hold back in the back end with 7 in coverage? I think you have to start out that way because of the lack of an outside dominant threat in Metcalf. That not having that number 1 wide receiver, it's going to open up Humphrey to go one-on-one with another one of their threats. And with Calvin Austin not being at 100%, and him in the original matchup, he only had 1 catch for 30 yards. Jaylen Warren had the touchdown. He had a couple of catches, but it was DK Metcalf. 7 catches, about $150 through the air, 12 targets. Rodgers was going at him, and you take him off the field, and he had 280 in that first game. It starts to look a lot more similar to what Rodgers did against Cleveland this past week, with a completion percentage right around 50 and only 168 passing yards, and him dumping the football off and trying to get Marquez Valdes-Scantling going a bit. Having him is helpful because you've got the familiarity of the former Packer with him. Scotty Miller, a guy that's bounced around a little bit. He was with Tampa Bay when they won that Super Bowl, and now he's here. So Pat Freiermuth is most likely the number 1 option. Not having Calvin Austin is tough. And then the Darnell Washington, the broken, like that really hurts you. Adam Thielen, like this is one of the weaker wide receiver rooms in the league. For Baltimore, they've got a weapon. They've got a true weapon in Mark Andrews, in Zay Flowers. These guys have been really good this year. Mark Andrews, statistically, has he had the dominant season, the type of year where you're in a conversation to be a top 5 tight end? That hasn't materialized. But Zay Flowers, he's been incredible. The only thing that you would like, if you're nitpicking here, would be more touchdowns. Something closer to 10 instead of 3 touchdowns overall. But again, it's a deep unit. They had Bateman going at times, Justice Hill out of the backfield, Isaiah Likely, DeAndre Hopkins. This is definitely a superior unit to what Pittsburgh has. So that's it. That's an innate advantage. The availability of DK Metcalf, and I got to single him out because what he did out there on the sideline with the fan and engaging could very well cost his team. They brought him in here. They sent away George Pickens, and now they have to deal with another player making a massive, costly error It's a lose-lose for everybody in the organization, especially DK Metcalf, who loses out on the earnings of a game check, hurts his team, everything in the process, and it doesn't get any worse than that. So you're forcing your veteran quarterback in Aaron Rodgers to work with an overall, like, there's a ceiling at this team for what they are. They were a 90 overall team. Now there's something like 88 without their best offensive weapon on the field. So it's going to look a lot more like a ground and pound style. I think that we're going to see something like 34, 35 carries. Mike Tomlin's not going to want to put the ball in harm's way, test the ability of Baltimore to defend the run. Against the Green Bay Packers this past week, Green Bay had some success on the ground with Malik Willis, right? Using his legs throughout the day. That element doesn't exist against this Baltimore D with Aaron Rodgers. He's mobile enough. He can give you maybe a first down or get to the corner if he needs to, like he's had that rushing touchdown, but he's nowhere remotely to the realm of Malik Willis. It's been 5 years since Aaron Rodgers has been a true scary threat to use his legs. You even go back 5 years ago to the NFC Championship game against Tampa Bay, where he doesn't get into the end zone, trying to barrel in, down by 8, gets tackled, or I don't even know if he wound up running. Didn't take the opportunity, and they settle for 3, don't get the football back. So you even go back to 2020, and his legs weren't effective. You kind of trace that back to 2018, got banged up against Chicago week 1 with the knee, and I would say that after that, he really didn't have a major effect with his legs. He even had a big scramble late in the fourth quarter of that game, not to pull a random game out. But I do think it was Chicago, week 1, 2018 at Lambeau, then with a 20-point comeback from Rodgers, doing it with his arm. But that from that moment on, he sort of transitioned and had those back-to-back MVP seasons. His style is that pocket passer. Got to get Gainwell, got to get Jaylen Warren going, and most likely these guys see around 15 carries for each of them in this one, really trying to establish that run, keep the load off of this group of weapons. And if I'm Baltimore, I'm saying, all right, Aaron, beat us. Can Aaron Rodgers beat us pushing the football downfield? You would think historically that's not what you want, but man-to-man, can these Pittsburgh Steelers weapons win? Going into next year, the priority, with no doubt, is going to be getting a wide receiver. Probably won't be looking at a guy like Carnell Tate or Jordan Tyson in this upcoming draft, but could get a kid like Jacoby Lane, Mekhi Lemon. There's a lot of really talented wide receivers. Chris Bell out of Louisville. There's a lot of talent. Denzel Boston out of Washington. There's really good wide receivers in this upcoming draft. With Blitzer Blender here, I do a lot of off-season draft work, going through the teams and the needs and where guys could be helping out, because I do a lot of coverage of football. So if you haven't checked out the college football playoff, please do so after this game. Have all of those games that have been previewed for this past week if you want to go back and watch them, see how the predictions looked, and then as well, we're going to be breaking down the rest for the semifinals that are coming up for you big college football fans out there. I know there are a lot that follow along here, and that leads me to say, if you haven't already, subscribe for more Blitzer Blender content. Doesn't cost you anything, just keeps this show free for me to continue to do this and continue to do it a little bit better. And I really, going back to this game, think that the special teams element is important. Looking at where can an explosive play happen, I would say, sort of look at kickoffs this year has been, even from the get-go, it's been like sort of transition. Like, do we take the ball out if it's in the end zone? Got a little bit chopped up with the words there. So if the ball is in the end zone, are we returning that? This is the type of game with field position. If a kickoff is into the end zone, do not return that ball out. Ball at the 35 is too good a field position to pass up. I don't want to see a single return in this game returned when that ball is kicked into the end zone. It's going to be one of those games where every 5 yards, every false start, illegal hands to the face for like every one of these penalties are critical. When you've got a winner take all game and the playoffs are at stake in a home game at that, and you've got the ability to put in one of the most dangerous players in the history of the league in Lamar Jackson and a future first ballot Hall of Famer, Super Bowl champion, 4-time MVP Aaron Rodgers in the postseason. There's a lot at stake here. And you can't have penalties. You can't have mishaps where you return the ball out of the end zone when you're going to get the ball to 35 and you get tackled at the 23. Those types of things just cannot happen. So which team makes mistakes like that and has lapses in focus, the penalties? I look back to the original game when they played a few weeks ago. Not terrible, wasn't awful from the penalties. Pittsburgh had 7 of them, which is a bad number, but only 33 yards overall. Baltimore, 39 yards on 5 penalties. Really key here to look at what materializes. Which team is physical and they come out and punch the other guy in the face, but is able to compose all of that. Because we see these matchups when Pittsburgh and Baltimore go head to head and guys are pushing and shoving and there's punches thrown and tempers are flaring. That's going to happen, especially in this playoff type atmosphere. It's the new year, 2026. Both teams are trying to establish that intensity. But if that goes beyond another level, you can hurt your team and cost yourself a shot at the postseason by making a dumb play. So I'm looking at veterans. I'm looking at really solid players that have been great for a long time, like Roquan Smith for Baltimore. Can he set the tone with a big hit early in this one? For Pittsburgh, it's a guy like Alex Highsmith getting pressure on the quarterback. He's been incredible for them with his time here. Keanu Benton, right? A defensive tackle that's been one of the more underrated players in the league and his run stuffing ability there in the middle. Cameron Hayward gets so much attention with good reason, no doubt. And he's been that force in the middle. But I got to tell you, this guy in Benton has been really good. He's an immovable object. And then behind that, Patrick Queen going up against his former team again. The versatility that he adds, and then right next to Peyton Wilson, these guys, these rangy backers, and behind them, you've got Jaylen Ramsey, the all-world ability. This guy in the back end, the way he hits, he could have been an all-pro safety earlier on in his career. I love the way he comes up to play at the line of scrimmage. He can play in the slot, in the back end, at free safety, playing center field. Him being here with Pittsburgh has been really key. Think he's a lot happier now that he's playing for the Steelers and not for the Miami Dolphins, who have played better football as of late. Had a nice win against the Bucs, but overall, I'm sure he's quite happy. It's still interesting though with Herbig here and then T.J. Watts. Did we see T.J.? Is there a chance that he's back for this one? If T.J. was available, I would start to feel a little bit better about the Steelers' chances and getting pressure on Tyler Huntley and stopping that run game, because he's not just a pass rusher. He's been one of the best run defenders in football for a really long time with his length, his size, the power, the contact. So if he's not in this game and you don't have DK Metcalf, you won't have your best defensive player. You won't have your best offensive player, and that's what it looked like last week. And it was very impressive to see them play that good a defense. I look at a guy like Jack Sawyer. I look at Nick Herbig, and they're setting the tone on the edge and rotating with Highsmith. It was a very impressive performance. Shedeur Sanders did not play well. Let's get this straight. Putting up 13 points, throwing 2 interceptions overall on the day. But that Cleveland defense has been a top 5 unit in the league throughout the whole year. They've just been set up to fail so many times. So let's transition a little bit to this defense and what they are going up against in Baltimore overall on the year. Of course, it runs through Derrick Henry. 1,469 yards, 16 touchdowns on the season. All of a sudden now, he's turned into the best running back maybe in football. Him, Robinson, that Jahmyr Gibbs, Jonathan Taylor have been those guys. But overall right now, Derrick Henry has another big game. And he gets to something like 27 carries and puts up 135, 2 touchdowns. I don't know how you can't say Derrick Henry once again was not the best running back in football. It's going to come down to the ability of whether it is Lamar Jackson or Huntley. And again, like I said earlier, don't think that it makes a huge enough difference because of the injury to Lamar, the back, and him in the lower body this season. He hasn't been the same guy mobility wise. And when he can't move around and extend and create and buy time and make plays on the sideline and just pick up a chunk of 6-7 yards when the play breaks down, not having that ability to be comfortable in the pocket to escape, it impacts his processing and his entire ability to push the ball downfield. So getting the ball out of the hands quicker if it's Lamar or Huntley, getting it to Flowers, getting it to Andrews quickly, those quicker completions, making sure that you're running the ball, getting the ball out within 2.5 seconds, because this Pittsburgh Steeler pass rush has been so good throughout the season. In the first matchup, had only 2 sacks. It felt like a little bit more than that with the pressure that they were putting on Lamar Jackson. I mean, holding this guy to under 50 yards, whether it's Huntley or Lamar, is always going to be the goal. You know, they probably are going to have a rushing touchdown at the quarterback position in most games, but Lamar, 19 to 35, 220, touchdown and an INT, a 71 quarterback rating, and putting up 43 yards on the ground. Right now, the Pittsburgh Steelers would take a stat line that's less than 250 yards passing, only 1 touchdown running and 1 touchdown passing. Only 2 touchdowns from the quarterback position. You're going to take that, especially if there's no rushing touchdowns from Derrick Henry. Most likely, we're looking at a score here as very similar to the first game. I think a little bit lower scoring, and that's going to be catered to a defensive style of play. Neither team is going to want to turn it over. And whether or not it's Lamar and the ability for them to push the ball downfield, how does Joey Porter Jr. play? How aggressive are they to take their shots and to drive the ball and put it in harm's way when a field goal is a huge chance in this game? So that's why I'm thinking a score like 23-20, 20-17 really feels like where this one's going to be realistic with less points than the original matchup. I feel like the Baltimore Ravens have more paths to victory with that dynamic backfield, with the weapons on the perimeter. It sucks to say this about Pittsburgh because I really liked where they were headed. The 1-5 Ravens, and they're in a great position earlier in the year to run and win the division by like Thanksgiving. And they hit a rough patch. And it sort of started there with their loss to the Chargers, and they wound up dropping 3 or 4 games. They beat the Bengals, but then got beat by the Bears and the Bills, and that really hurt them. The loss to the Cincinnati Bengals and the Green Bay Packers back-to-back, that Sunday night game, and then the Thursday night game before that crazy game against Joe Flacco. So there was a stretch in there where they lost 5 out of 7. And that's what got Baltimore back in the race. And then Pittsburgh won 3 in a row, beating the Ravens, the Dolphins, that crazy game against the Lions at Ford Field. I didn't think they were going to win that game. You probably didn't, whether you're a Steeler or a Raven fan. And they drove right through that Lions offense, taking advantage. The run game, marred with the pass and the shots. But what did they not have after that game? Without DK Metcalf, there's no presence of TJ Watt to be one of, again, the best defensive players in the league. He's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Not having him, it's such a tough ask for here. I think that the Baltimore Ravens win this game by a score of 20-17. They pull it out. It comes down to the wire. We're talking final 2 minutes, either tie game, 1 possession football game by a field goal. Other team has an opportunity to go down and score. Would be shocked if there's 30 points scored in this game with the way stylistically we're going to get. Maybe the defenses have been great this year, but overall, I like Baltimore's ability to run the ball with whichever quarterback. Give the ball to Derrick Henry at least 25 times. The numbers have been just fully dominant for Baltimore when they give him his carries over 20, over 25 times. It was the same way for the Tennessee Titans. So 20-17. Let me know down below in the comments who you think wins this game. Am I missing something with Pittsburgh that they have? They won the first matchup. They get this game at home. I'm giving those 3 points. I feel like the home field advantage is going to always be critical in the NFL. An environment like Pittsburgh, it's probably worth 3 to 4 and impacting the huddle. So if I saw this game at Baltimore, I would be saying I think they win by about a touchdown with the advantages of simply Pittsburgh not having some of their better players. But I'm going to go Baltimore by 3. If you're a Raven fan, let me know if you think this margin should be worse or if you still have doubts about this game. Thank you so much for watching throughout the entire regular season. This wraps up the regular season 4 games. I've been previewing, predicting these games throughout the season. It's been so much fun to do that. The same for college football for those of you that follow that as well. So much gratitude for those of you that have tuned in lately, that are going to be tuning in here in the future for the postseason. We're going to be breaking down the winner of this game, the winner of this game in the postseason, and who they wind up playing. Again, most likely it will be the 5 seed Houston Texans, because Houston would need a win against the Colts, and they would need the Jags to lose to the Titans for them to drop out of that 5 spot. So most likely that won't be happening, and they'll be playing a tough Houston team, and that's what's in store for the winner of this game in the wild card round. We'll know the date of that game as rest of all the playoff games in the schedule after this game on Sunday Night Football. Tarico Collinsworth will essentially take this one from here. Appreciate you so much for watching. If you haven't already subscribed to Blitz with Blender, please do so. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. My name's Josh Blender. I make NFL college content weekly, getting you set and ready for these matchups. They're unbelievable. This just might be one of the games of the season. If you're a football fan and you love defense, this is going to be one of those games. If you love a guy like Aaron Rodgers, is this his final career game in the NFL? It's certainly possible. He's been so much fun to watch throughout his career. Gonna enjoy every second of this Hall of Famer and this performance. If it is indeed his last one, let's see if this one turns into an instant classic. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Best player in college football.
That Georgia and Ohio State game, New Year's Eve, is going to be a classic.
Josh Blender, hi everybody, I'm Josh Blender.
To the 40, 35, 30, Espinosa to the 20.